had very strong foundations and principles in the church and in the Bible, and trying to follow God's word, right? So go ahead, do the next one. Next picture. I think it's my high school yearbook photo. That's a crazy one.
Why are we not going?
Let me stop. It did for a second.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I stopped sharing for a second. Hold on.
Yeah, that was somebody else. I didn't recognize that photo. The second one.
Okay.
All right.
Can you see it again?
Yep.
And I'll put it back in presentation mode.
Okay, so let's.
There we go.
Oh, wow.
That's what I looked like at 17. Notice the hair. Everybody had long, thick hair back then, the wide collar and everything. So that's 1977. I graduated high school. And what you probably don't notice is the teeth. At that time, I had just gotten bonding on my teeth. Because when I was little, I was born in 1959 with cystic fibrosis outside of Syracuse. So I don't know if any of you have ever been to Baldwinsville, but that's where I'm from, just outside of Syracuse. At that time in 1959 and the early 60s, they gave kids with cystic fibrosis a lot of antibiotics. And it's, more specifically, it was the penicillin that discolored the teeth. I've met a few others that have very gray teeth, and just out of the kindness of their heart, my grandparents paid for me to have bonding put on my teeth, so they looked a little more white than really dark gray. What I have now, I did like 15 years ago almost. These are porcelain laminates, and they're very expensive, but these are great. These will last lifetime, because the old bonding, the gray started to show through. And it's something that a lot of kids with cystic fibrosis in the 60s had to deal with, but they don't use it anymore. So, a lot of the kids with CF today are not going to have the discolored teeth like I had. And of course, it affects your self-image and your relationships with other people. When you smile and they're gray teeth, it's pretty gross. It's not attractive at all. But I made it through high school. And the statistics were that I probably wouldn't make it to college at that time, right? Being born in 1959, life expectancy was less than 10 years for cystic fibrosis. I can just give you a couple other stats. And I got this from research through the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's website. But when I was 21, life expectancy for somebody with CF was 18. So I'd already beaten it. So people figuring I'm not going to live much longer. When I was 30, life expectancy crept up to 27 because of better treatment, drugs, therapy and everything. When I was 40, life expectancy was 32 for people with CF. And today, somebody born with CF is likely to live about 37 years. I'm 62. And I just got a really nice retirement package last year. So thank God. I mean, I'm in very good shape physically. And a lot of that's because of the new lungs I got. The old lungs that I was born with really deteriorated quite a bit. And I'll tell you a lot more about that soon. But, it was, in a lot of people's eyes, a miracle I made it through high school. So go ahead to the next one. I think it's Puerto Rico, isn't it? The whole big family reunion. Yeah. So this is me at like 20 in college. I went to SUNY Stony Brook here. I looked at Buffalo and Albany and Binghamton. I wanted to go to a big university. So I came out to Long Island, went to Stony Brook, and I liked it. I went on to grad school, but this is the family. My younger brother's a professional golfer. He's really good. But that's what we looked like years later. And I was actually getting stronger and healthier in college. It was amazing because I stopped drinking so much. that was high school, right? Who doesn't drink too much in high school? But legally, you could drink at 18 when I was going to high school. So the high school seniors could buy for everybody else. But my health did improve because I just really cleaned up my act. I focused on the academics in school and stayed really healthy. I did a judo class and stuff like that. So go to the next one. Forgot what the next one is. My kids. These are my kids. And that's another thing with cystic fibrosis. I mean, if you know the statistics, most guys with cystic fibrosis are sterile. I have two amazing kids. This is when they were like 6 and 3 in the Bronx. I spent quite a few years in the Bronx and then moved up to Peekskill. I bought a house in Peekskill. They were really cute. I mean, it was one of the greatest blessings in my life to raise the two kids. It was so much fun. And I have a picture of them later. But these are the two. And again, that's another miracle in my life. First, that I survived cystic fibrosis, through childhood and young adulthood. Then I have kids, which is just another miracle. Go ahead to the next slide. Now, this is me after the transplant. It's actually like a year later. I had pneumonia and I had to go into the hospital for a follow-up visit. But I just thought it'd be cool to show a picture of me there. And you can see I look pretty healthy, that I'd recovered pretty well because it was a year after the transplant. But I figured I need to take a picture of me looking out the window. So this is on the east side of Manhattan, Midtown. It's right by 34th Street. And it's NYU Langone. It's just a tremendous facility. This is a brand new hospital, this clinic. This is where they do the heart transplants, lung transplants, kidney, liver. The amazing thing is they can even do face transplants now. And I said, maybe I could use one of those someday. But it was a great facility. The staff was unbelievable. The doctors and nurses and therapists, they were just fantastic. So that's just me, hanging out there. I was in that follow-up visit for just like 2 nights. And, they cleared everything up. But the maintenance is really important. So I've been working really aggressively. One of my most important jobs now is staying healthy. And I do that every day. I'm averaging over 4 miles a day, walking, exercising a lot, golfing, biking, stuff like that. Okay, next one. There you go. So this is stepping back in time a little bit. This is about 8 months after my transplant. My son was doing his PhD out in University of Colorado in Boulder. So I recovered so well that, the doctor said, I was free to go. And, go ahead and do some hiking with my son. So he takes me up one of the highest mountains. And I hiked with new lungs just 8 months after my transplant. So here we are hiking in the Rocky Mountains. And it was just fantastic. We had a great time. But that was just 8 months after my transplant. And I'll tell you the whole story about the transplant soon after this. But I thought that picture was great. So I recovered very well from the surgery. Then the next one, I think it's the last one, isn't it? Let me see. Yeah, so that's my son getting his PhD in environmental engineering. That's a dinosaur behind us. So my kids now are 31 and my son will be 29 next month. And he's actually in Princeton University doing postdoc research. He's just doing a phenomenal job with his career. And that's me. Like I said, that was after hiking all over the Rocky Mountains. It's crazy. And then I just have the last one. I think the last one's my LinkedIn photo, right? Oh, no. Oh, this one. I love this one. This is just on the theme that, if you believe you can do anything. So this is called Balance Rock up in Westchester. It's awesome. They're not sure how it got there. I think it was like, instead it's actually, there's a high probability that this is from one of the Druids or the Celts that came to America like 1,000 years ago, or could have been a lot longer than that. So I just thought this was cool to show you. I can accomplish anything. I think the last one's the LinkedIn photo. Nope, that's my wife and my dog. Now this is us taking a little vacation to Fire Island. We took a ferry over there, but I wouldn't have made it without my wife and my dog. And when they put me through the criteria to determine if I was a good candidate for the transplant or not. This is one of the most important factors they look at. Do you have somebody very closely that you live with who can help take care of you to recover from the surgery, especially the first couple of months? They're very hard. And, I couldn't have done it without my wife. And the dog's great because he makes me get up off the couch and walk around and go outside and play. And, having a dog just a great blessing. He's a really good dog. He's a corgi. And, my wife did an amazing job helping me through the recovery. So I wanted to show you that. And they really don't rate candidates very highly if you don't have a spouse, if you're not healthy walking in for a transplant, if she's not healthy, if you don't have a good support group. And I was an active member of the church, had a really good job, really good insurance. So I was a great candidate, but these two helped me get through it all. Okay, I think the last photo is the next one, right? Yep, that's me. An attitude of gratitude. So that's what I put out there on LinkedIn. And so I'm considering, working again. Like I might take a consulting job for a couple months if I get bored. But it's been a great year off. I've been having a lot of fun golfing. Especially I go out like twice a week at least. So thanks for the slides. I think that's a good intro. People have a lot better idea of where I've come from. What I wanted to tell you is that when I was just an infant, I was only a couple of months old, I almost died from the cystic fibrosis, we think, because I had a bad lung infection. My lungs were like heaving. I mean, my parents could see that I was having extreme difficulty breathing. And, with my dad as a pastor and, my mom, Bible school teacher and organist for the church, they got on the prayer chain for the whole church. So it was like everybody in church got on this prayer chain praying for me. This is before social media, right? So everybody got on the phone and started to, pray for me. And I came through it somehow. My dad had just seen a child of a member in the church die from this just a couple weeks before. So he was really concerned I wasn't going to make it. But the prayer chain I have great confidence in is what saved my life there. And, throughout childhood, I had numerous bouts of bronchitis and strep throat, walking pneumonia, mononucleosis, and all these lung infections. I even had a lot of ear infections as a kid. I think a lot of people with cystic fibrosis have a lot of those infections. But, when you have that kind of health issue to deal with it, you can look at the glass as half full or half empty, right? But I always try to look at the positive side. And, when life gives you lemons, try to make lemonade out of it. So at least when I had energy with my brothers, who were both athletes, I played every sport I could possibly play. I mean, we were biking. I played the trumpet and the drums, but I was running cross country in junior high school and playing soccer in high school just to keep the lungs strong, I mean, I couldn't just sit around and just do homework. So I was very active, and I was on the varsity soccer team, but I got the letter because I was the best bench warmer on the team. I hardly ever played. I was third string, But the amazing thing is I was in the condition everybody else was, right? So I just was running, how soccer practice is just run. So it was great for my lungs, and that helped me, carry through to college and everything else. So the next thing I just want to talk about briefly is how, everybody goes through difficult times in their lives. Pain, suffering, anxiety. I mean, whether it's job, family, health, or wealth. But, in the Bible, because I grew up, studying the Bible a lot, God often said to us, I'll be with you. And that's the Old Testament and the New Testament. I mean, I'm divorced. I raised the kids by myself, right? I had primary physical custody of the kids. I was almost fired for lateness from one of my jobs. Lateness, can you believe it? And then, the dual lung transplant. The amazing thing is I wasn't even on the waiting list until I had my second lung collapse. And they rushed me to this emergency room about 15 minutes away. And then they transferred me from Long Island to Manhattan to go to NYU. And I waited 2 weeks in, a private room on an artificial lung machine. And the right donor came along. I mean, we turned down a couple other donors. Like after just 1 week, we had a potential donor, but the guy was a lot taller than me. And I said, well, we could trim the lungs. They can actually cut the lungs to fit them. But they said, let's just wait for a perfect fit, somebody my height and build it. So then just a couple days later, somebody else passed away and had lungs that were available, but the guy was a smoker. He was young, and there were no signs of lung, cancer, or any other issues from the smoking. But they said, let's just wait. We don't consider a smoker an ideal candidate. And it was only a couple more days. So I waited a total of 2 weeks for a dual lung transplant when I wasn't even on the waiting list. And the amazing thing is, my doctor told me there were over 110,000 people in the United States waiting for a lung transplant. And I was not even on the list until they wheeled me in there on the ambulance with a lung collapse, the second one I'd had that year, 2018. So it's just another answer to prayer. It's just phenomenal because my lungs were just shot. I mean, there was no way with cystic fibrosis I could have lived another year to 59, right? So here, the transplant came up. It's just amazing. I mean, all these symptoms of cystic fibrosis, the digestive problems, the pancreas, I've had that for my whole life. And I still have to take digestive enzymes. It's part of cystic fibrosis, right? Because pancreas doesn't work very well. All those antibiotics. It was actually about 58 when my lungs started to fail. And I was really struggling to get oxygen. And the funny thing is, I couldn't see it that much, even though I was losing energy. It's a little harder to breathe. I didn't want to think the worst, but my boss could even see it at work, that I looked a little more pale and I was getting like the darker circles under my eyes because I wasn't getting enough oxygen. I was kind of blind to it, but I just kept pushing. I would, commute every day. It's like the train into the city, walk a mile and a half to the office, work hard. I worked like 9, 10, 11 hours in the office. I worked very long hours and then come home. So, I tried to keep a normal routine, but I was getting weaker and the boss could see it. And she said, you really should see a specialist. And I kept saying, yeah, I'm taking care of myself. But finally, at like 58, I looked at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation website. And since I was working Midtown, right by Bryant Park, like 42nd Street there, I was looking up the doctor's offices that were closest to me. And it's only a mile away that NYU Langone had a doctor named Rani Kondos. And she was a specialist for cystic fibrosis patients. So I said, okay, this makes a lot of sense. I really need to see her because my lungs are just getting so weak. I don't know how much longer I can keep breathing with them, right? So I saw her, and one of the things I first started doing was a nebulizer, kind of like this, right? I don't know if you guys have seen the nebulizers, right? They're attached to a machine, like a pump. And it worked for a while. For the first 3 months, my lung functioning improved a lot because they do a pulmonary functioning test and my lungs got stronger and I felt a lot better. So that was like September. And by Christmas, I was in much better shape. But in January, I had a lung collapse after shoveling snow. It wasn't the same night. It was a couple of days later. Lungs collapsed. So rushed me to the hospital. I was in there for 7 days. And, they had me on IV and everything. But I recovered. I came home. But they had me on lots of drugs and the nebulizer and then some other stuff, which I had to start doing. And then that was January. And then July, I had pneumonia. Who gets pneumonia in the summer? It's pretty bad. So my lungs started to weaken again. I felt like it was kind of a temporary fix for those first 3 months with the nebulizer. But the doctor was great. And she took care of me. I went in to see her a couple times and did the pulmonary functioning test. And then I had another lung collapse in September of 2018. And that was in the middle of the night. And it was so bad that I had been on oxygen for a couple weeks at home. So we had oxygen tanks, a huge one, and then a small portable one. So, if I went somewhere, I could drink. And I was feeling like this is the end, man. How long can you live like this? I was getting, a little depressed, honestly. I've always tried to stay positive and optimistic, but that was really difficult to go through. And so the lungs collapsed at like 1 a.m. My wife rushed me to the hospital. My kids happened to be here with me for the weekend because it was Labor Day. And we thought we were going to go to the beach and run around. Lungs collapsed in the middle of the night. So just one day overnight in the hospital here, and they transferred me on the Long Island Railroad. They put me in the ambulance. I was okay because I was on oxygen. And but I was only there like 24 hours. They took me into Manhattan, NYU Langone. And that's when they went through the entire list of candidates for the transplant. And my lungs were so bad, they had to put me in a medically induced coma for 36 hours. And so my wife had to answer a lot of the questions on this checklist. I guess it's like 20 questions. And I ended up being a really good candidate because other than the lungs, I was very healthy. Good job, good insurance, great wife and kids, and, very stable home situation. And again, the insurance is really important. Blue Cross Blue Shield, the whole surgery and all the procedures following and the drugs, it's over $1 million that it costs to do the transplant. And I still have to take a couple of the drugs every day for the rest of my life to prevent rejection. But it didn't even cost me 1% of the total cost. That $1 million was just an astronomical figure. And if I didn't have insurance, I probably wouldn't have even gotten the lungs, right? But everything worked out. I mean, thank God. It's amazing. But one of my favorite verses in the Bible is that the Apostle Paul, he went through many trials and tribulations. In the book of Romans, he said, we glorify in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. So I've always tried to have hope, as a child, hoping that, not only would I survive, but that somehow I would thrive. And my dad's favorite verse in the Bible is from Joshua. And it impressed me so much that the story of the character Joshua, who led the Hebrews into the promised land after Moses died. I named my son Joshua. But it's just a very simple statement that he made to the people as they fled slavery in Egypt. And they had to wander in the desert for 40 years. But as Joshua was leading them into the promised land, when Moses died, he said, be strong and courageous. And that was my dad's motto, for life. And I try to live by that, with faith and hope and love and joy, because I've been the beneficiary of many miracles in my life. I think of life as, not a sprint, but a marathon, right? I mean, I've had so many jobs, mowing lawns and flipping burgers when I was younger, selling books, recruiting for college, right? I was an admissions assistant. And then human resources for a bank for 10 years. And then I did compliance work for like 25 years. So I had a very good career at the bank, 37 years. I got a nice retirement package last year. And, I think the key is just never give up on your dreams. And, another great quote from Paul in the Bible is, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time, we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up. That's from Galatians, the book of Galatians. But I really do try to live with an attitude of gratitude. I mean, I'm thankful for the family I grew up with, the family I have now. So many things I've been blessed with. It's so easy to complain about life, the things that you don't have. I didn't have the health that my brothers had. I didn't have the wealth that a lot of families have. A pastor's life is generally, pretty miserly one, right? We had very little materially, but I was blessed in a lot of other ways. So there's so many people that have more than we do, right? I mean, you don't focus on what you don't have, focus on what you do have and be grateful for it. Thank God, and, thank others for what you do have. So I'm happily married man, remarried, actually was divorced. And my kids are from the first marriage. But I've got two great kids. I got a nice house on Long Island here, 2 cars. I'm an active member of our church, and I play in the band. I still play my drums and the trumpet occasionally. It's a lot of fun playing the trumpet. But I see life as a gift. You got to make the most of it. Nobody knows how long we're going to be here on the earth, right? So one of the things the bank I used to work for said was this. They had a philosophy of work-life balance. And I don't know if you face those challenges at work, but sometimes it is really hard to balance your work life and then your personal life with family and friends, managing a job, your relationships with people, your health. So every day when I wake up, I thank God, for another day and the potential that the next day brings. I try to help other people as much as I can, because I think that's the key to being happy in life, doing for others, not just for yourself. So I just want to encourage you, you rising stars. I have great admiration for what you're doing and trying to do. You got to set your sights high, right? So if you can conceive it, you can achieve it with your career. You can be the hero of your own story in life, right? So just one of the guys that I've been reading a lot of, I think he's fantastic. He's a clinical psychologist, Dr. Jordan Peterson. I've read both of his latest books, 12 Rules for Life, and then 12 More Rules for Life. They're both really good. And if you're interested, he's a tremendous motivational speaker and very insightful clinical psychologist. He taught at Harvard. Now he's up in Toronto. But he's on YouTube. Some great lectures. He's really good. And one of the things he says is that we should strive for meaning in life, not happiness, because happiness is very fleeting. We should take as much responsibility as we can, to make the most out of our lives as well as others that we care about, make the world a better place. So I really like that idea about, being the hero of your own story. So that's Dr. Jordan Peterson. I mean, check him out. I think he's great. And then just kind of in closing, what I wanted to say is that do the best you can to use your God-given talents to make a real difference, to help other people and strive for meaning in life, not just happiness. I think the most fulfilling thing I've done in my life is helping and loving other people. I mean, there's nothing that beats that. So just keep setting challenging goals for yourself and, monitor your progress and keep pushing yourself. And another thing Dr. Peterson said is that it's probably most productive and helpful to not just compare yourself to other people. It's actually more important to compare yourself to who you were. You ever think about who you were like back in high school and how far you've come from that? I think about that a lot, that I've come a long ways. And I think that's really good for you to give yourself recognition for how far you've come and yet set challenging goals to help push you to reach your potential. So don't worry about comparing yourself to other people. It's where you are now versus where you were, and then where you want to be. So I think that's really good motivation in life, and just keep reaching for the stars. You guys are rising stars, so I look forward to hearing about your successes in life. But I wanted to open it up to any questions you guys might have about what it was like living with CF.
Bree, I see your hand is raised. If you have a question for Dan.
I don't really have a question, but more of a comment. And I really appreciate, you saying, use your gifts and really find purpose. And that's something that I've been trying to do over the past few years. And I wrote this purpose statement, and it's act in love, share knowledge, and help loved ones thrive. And that's something that I try and live by every day. And I'm actually going to change careers to do something that's more aligned with my strengths. And it's I'm going to go into teaching. And so I feel like, that's where I can have my biggest impact on others and develop the students of who are going to be our future. And so I love that you shared that with everyone.
No, that's great. So I lost you for a second. I had the connection problem. So I lost a little bit of what you said at the end. But I think it's great, that purpose statement. How long ago did you do that?
It was really only 6 months ago. So someone that I work with at KPMG had brought this wellness group together of a bunch of people across the country. And he actually he just graduated with his master's in applied positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania, I think. And that
good school.
Yeah, that activity of the 10-word purpose statement was something that he wanted to share with people at our firm. So we all did that 6 months ago, and it's really cool.
It's a great exercise to go through, right? I mean, what's more important than your purpose in life, right? I mean, if you have no purpose, you're going to flounder, without goals and, without real meaning, a purpose-driven life. There's another really good book I read, Purpose-Driven Life. I mean,
Yeah. Another thing
great
though
stuff.
is like, well, like the question is like, what is purpose, right? And one time I read this statement that people say like follow your passions, but that's very different than purpose. And they say your passion is what the world can give to you, but your purpose is what you can give to the world. And so it goes right along with what you were saying about giving to others and how you get really fulfilled from giving to others. And that there's also a book that I wanted to mention as you were mentioning books. It's called Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And it's all about how leaders like are givers. And I had actually just in my Bible this morning had read 1 Corinthians 13, and it was talking about, maybe it wasn't in that, maybe it was in Mark, I was reading yesterday, but it was talking about how leaders are not people who, get like take from everybody else, but instead give everything. So I love that you brought that up. Very relatable to me.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, any other questions? I wanted to show you guys a couple of the things that I used. A couple things I don't have to use anymore, but let me show you this. When I came out of the hospital, this might blow your mind, but I was on 13 different pills, like every day. I had this pill box. Can you see that pill box? Right. So not just every day of the week, but 4 times a day, I had to take different pills. And it didn't last for long, but the first couple months coming out of the transplant, you have to be so disciplined and rigid about taking everything on schedule. So there's morning, afternoon, evening, and then late at night for some of them. And like these little pill boxes were full. Like each time a day had pills I had to take. It was crazy. So now there's really only 4 things I'm taking that are required to be taken every day for the rest of my life. And it's to prevent rejection. And I don't know if you've heard of them, but one is tacrolimus. So I got to take that. Prednisone is a steroid, tiny little pill. And I only take one of them, but I got to take that forever. Again, it prevents rejection. And then another pill, they call it Bactrim, to prevent infection as opposed to rejection, but it's similar. And then the other one is something to keep my blood sugar low. And I've cut so much sugar out of my diet, it's insane. That's one thing that the surgery forced me to do is like, my blood sugar was through the roof because of the steroids. They had me on like 5 pills at one point, and it shot my sugar way up, like to the maximum range. When you prick your finger and you look at the, like, oh my God. The number was so high, it didn't even register on the home kit. It's like 600 plus. It's insane. So I cut a lot of sugar out of my diet. And then that's the 4th pill that I have to take every day. But I was on so many different drugs. It's just unbelievable. One of the things with cystic fibrosis patients is the sinus. We often have a lot of problems with sinus. So they say I have sinusitis, like most people with CF, but it's a very mild case. And all I have to do is do like nose drops once a day. I don't even do them every day. It's like every other day I'll do a couple of nose drops. And then the sinus rinse, which isn't bad. It's kind of weird. You put this, it's basically baking soda into water, just pure water. And you shoot it up one nostril, it comes out the other one. It's really weird. But most people with CF have to do that to clean out the sinuses every day. I do it once or twice a week. So I have a very, very mild case. And the amazing thing is I don't have cystic fibrosis anymore in my lungs because my lungs came from a guy. All they could tell me was it was a male in his 30s from Montefiore Hospital. I don't know how he died, but he was very healthy. And, I thank God for that. So here I am turning 60 with the lungs of a 30-year-old. So maybe I'll live to 90 now, right? I mean, it's just amazing. It's just another, miracle in my life to survive, to have that gift of life.
Dan, there is a question for you
The other
in the
couple things I
chat.
want to show you is right. Oh, good. Okay, let's do the question first.
Okay, yeah, sorry to interrupt. It's a great question from Bree. about how did you stay positive with the challenges of having cystic fibrosis and the double lung transplant?
Well, I think a lot of it goes back to, growing up in the church, and reading the Bible. I'm praying every day. I think that's been one of the keys throughout my whole life. Just reading the Bible, praying, and going to church to have a support group of fellow believers, right? People that have the same faith that I do. So there's the church family, and then my real, natural family, and the Bible and prayer. But I'm telling you, in the hospital, when I came out of the medically induced coma for 36 hours, my wife had already signed all the paperwork saying, we'd like to apply for the transplant. I felt great peace about it. I didn't have fear. I wasn't worried about it. I knew my life was in God's hands. I have to admit, before the transplant, that last year when my lungs were getting a little weaker, I was really having this sense of mortality, right? Like this could be the end of it. But I mean, heaven's going to be a better place than earth, right? So I just hated to leave my family and friends, but I knew I'd be going to a better place eventually. I just wasn't quite ready to go, So I just, spend a lot of time in prayer, especially when I go to bed. But I pray for other people too. And that's one of the things that got me through the recovery coming out of the hospital. When I was in extreme pain for a while, a couple of weeks, incredible pain. Because they cut you. By the way they did the cut is right under, my chest. The old way of doing a transplant was to cut you right open up the middle, like heart transplant, and then pull your ribs apart. They don't do that anymore, thank God. That's not how they did it for me. So they just cut my chest, and they have to separate the lungs. They pull one out, they pull the other one out, and then they take the new ones, they put one in, they put the other one in, and the right lung is actually bigger, so there's a bigger scar on the right side. But then they reattach them. And I mean, throughout the whole thing, thinking about surgery, and then before and after surgery, I spent a lot of time in prayer. And my family came to see me. My brothers came to see me. My wife, my aunts, uncles, my nephews and nieces came. In-laws came. My pastor came and his wife. A lot of people came to see me. That really was tremendous. Before and after the surgery. But I guess throughout life, the key is, having faith, not just faith in God, and what he's able to do with my life. Because, I'm different, right? I mean, but I tried not to look at myself as a handicapped person my whole life. I just had to accept that I have some limitations, but everybody's got limitations, right? Some things I can't do, but there are a lot of things I can do. So again, just being grateful, just thanking God for what he's given me. And every day when I wake up, just being grateful. Here's another day. Let's see what I can do with it. See, who can I help today that's worse off than me? It could be emotionally, not just physically, right? And there's one other thing I wanted to say. I don't know. I mean, I guess you got to believe in yourself, right? But a greater power too. Because I just put my life in God's hands, many times, especially like when I was going through a divorce. I got through it okay, raising the kids, I prayed for wisdom and strength, and God gave it to me. So got me through all those health problems, and I'm like a new person now. It's just amazing. So I think that's the key, my faith in God, reading the Bible and praying, and then having a good support network of people that are family and friends. So let me just show you a couple of things so you can understand. They had me do this thing. See this? So what you do is you inhale. The other thing I have is for exhaling, but there's the little meter thing that goes up like this one. See that? So you're not supposed to do it as fast as possible. You got to get to the top, but as steady as possible. So that was kind of fun. And it was really hard initially with the new lungs, because I mean, you got to build your lungs up and get used to them. So that was for inhaling. And then the other one, this is for exhaling, right? What you do here is you blow as hard as you can. And you do it repeatedly. So stuff like that really helped build the lungs up, because they had me do all these exercises for the lungs coming right out of the surgery. And we had great nurses, doctors. They were fantastic. One of the few things I have to do now is the pulmonary functioning test. Instead of going into NYU Langone at the hospital in New York City, I can do this at home. And that's what you blow into, right? Like that. You put the nose clip on so you don't waste air out of your nose. So like that. As hard as you can. You exhale as fast and as hard as you can. So I got to do that at least once a week. They want me to do it every day. I'm like, I'm not doing it every day. I'm so active, golfing, running, biking, hiking. I'm in a lot better shape than most people with CF because my lungs don't have it anymore. But the funny thing is, my pancreas still has the CF. My sinus still has the CF. Couple other things like that you'll always have living with CF. But I met a guy recently who's taken the new drug for cystic fibrosis. He's like 32 years old. He says as soon as he started taking it, within a week, he stopped coughing. His lungs opened up. And I forgot, do you know what the name of the new drug is?
Trikafta.
Trikafta, yeah, that's it. So the guy is phenomenal. He just can't believe, he's like, my lungs have never been this healthy in my life. After just taking it for a week, he said his lungs had expanded. He was feeling fantastic, and all this oxygen. And that's just another miracle. I mean, for so many people with cystic fibrosis, they don't have to go through what I went through. But again, I had a mild case. I never would have lived till 58 with those lungs if I had had a more normal case of cystic fibrosis. So it's weird. And when I first started going to the doctor from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's referral, she said, the mutation I have is so rare that Trikafta doesn't work. So I'm like, So I had to accept it. I could have gotten really depressed and all sad and, give up on that. But a year later, I have new lungs. I mean, what could be better than that, right? So it's just,
Dan, there is another question in the chat as well for you.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, I'm ready.
Because we had some people.
Paraphernalia.
Yeah, we had some people trickle in. So just, they may have missed this statement at the, earlier on, but is there anyone else in your family that has been impacted by CF? And this is from our honoree EJ.
Yeah, EJ, I was one of 4 kids. My 2 brothers and my sister did not get it. They're just carriers. But my sister's daughter got cystic fibrosis, much worse than I. She has a different mutation. She's in really bad shape, doing 3 different drugs all the time. She had that port put in her chest. She's out in Arizona, which initially, 30 years ago was a great place to be for people with respiratory problems. Now it's gotten so crowded and polluted, she's had to leave Arizona for Oregon. And then she went to Florida. So she's 31 and she's really struggling with cystic fibrosis. But she's the only one out of my sister's 2 kids. My older brother has 3 kids. None of them got cystic fibrosis. And that's my older brother. My younger brother, 1 daughter, and she doesn't have it either. So it's one of us 4 kids, right? My brothers and sister didn't get it, but one of my sister's 2 kids got it. Nobody else got it in the family. So we're pretty fortunate that way, right? Any other questions?
Any other questions for Dan? I know we have just a few minutes left, but want to open it up to any other questions you have about Dan's experience or CF, your involvement with the foundation while we've got them.
I mean, that transplant was amazing. The hospital was like a 5-star hotel. It was fantastic. They gave me like a 70-inch TV. I'm watching movies, flipping around. Baseball, football. It's great. I mean, I thought I was like in a hotel. So I was there 2 weeks before the transplant. on an artificial lung. They call it an ECMO machine. I could see all my blood, like all my blood going through it every day. So what it would do is just oxygenate the blood, right? Because you have to oxygenate because my lungs weren't working. So they did a bypass for the 2 weeks I was waiting. And then, it worked really well. And then, immediately after the surgery, they got rid of that machine. They didn't need it. They threw my old lungs out. But I was in the recovery for 2 weeks and went home. So I was in the hospital a total of 1 month. Wasn't bad. I mean, 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, and I came home. It's actually a very good experience to go through. I mean, believe it or not, just really gives you a perspective in life, and again, gratitude, right? Any other questions? Anything you'd like to know? What it was like back then or what it's like now?
If no one has a question, I'm sorry, I'm having video issues, so I'm going to stay off video. But this is Rachel. I'm just curious, you are now, obviously you embrace such gratitude in life, and you are now a retired person with, in all things considering, some health back. Like, what do you want to do with retirement? How do you see your next life's journey? Like, what's next for Dan Jack?
That's a good question. I keep thinking about that all the time. I needed that 1 year off. Because, I basically worked 37 years since my master's degree in psychology. It was industrial organizational psychology. So it's basically personnel psychology, right? And that's what I did the first 10 years after grad school. But I think what I would probably do in the next couple of years is some consulting work. Like I said, I wanted to take the year off after 37 years working. And I can get Social Security now at 62. I'm taking it right away. I'm not going to wait. So one of the things is, I'm active with our church, and we're doing a church rebuilding program. We're actually going to build a new church because our church burned down on Christmas Day, if you can believe it. We had 4 services Christmas Eve, and somebody forgot to turn off the fan for the ventilation. And early in the morning on Christmas Day, it caught fire, burned the roof off the church. So we lost our church. But we just approved plans for a brand new building. And so I want to be actively involved in that. And then helping other people. My kids are both doing really well, but my daughter wants to get married. She hasn't found the right guy yet, but she's 31. So she says her goal in life is to be a good mother, stay-at-home mom. Of course, she says, she needs me to be a good grandpa. So that'll take up a lot of my time if and when my daughter gets married and has kids, right?
I love that. You'll have to add that photo to the next one, right? When that happens, when you speak to a future class, you'll have a picture with your kids and grandkids, and what an amazing slide to add to.
In the meantime, it's, trying to help other people that I know. A lot of it is through my iPhone. Since I'm home a lot, but out there golfing and walking the boardwalk at Jones Beach and stuff, I still stay in touch. I often contact people I haven't spoken to in quite a while, just to see how they're doing and see if there's anything I can say that's encouraging to them in their lives. A lot of people, like I said, they're a lot worse off than I am. A lot of people that are younger, they're still struggling with health issues, like, being overweight or obese, or, they're having marital problems or financial problems or problems, with family, friends, whatever. There's so many different types of issues that people have to deal with. So I want to be there to help other people. That's one thing that I've done the last year, because I didn't have to work to make money. They gave me a severance that was over a year's salary. I realized, now I have time to reestablish relationships with people from college, high school even, and then, family and friends. So that's been a gift. Another gift to me is, time to reach out and see how I can help other people. So that, I think that's one of the most important uses of this life. And that's what I was praying in the hospital when I was recovering from the surgery, and even leading up to it. I just asked for God's will to be done in my life, to use me however he wanted to use me to help other people. So I still pray about it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the next 15 years or so, you know, but there are a lot of things you can do, you know, with your phone, just talking to people, even texting people, giving them an encouraging word. You know, so yeah, my undergraduate degree was psychology, and the graduate degree, similar type of psychology. So I want to use that, yeah, that ability to understand people and help them out. Sometimes it's just helping other people get through the day. Other times it's trying to find out what they want to do with their lives, you know. But
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dan. I think, you know, to bring it back full circle, what you just said about being present and giving back and supporting. And I think that's a lot of, and it speaks to what our Rising Stars have been engaged with. They found a passion through hearing stories like yours, Dan, and others to really want to give back and to the CF community, and are making an impact each and every day. And they're 2 weeks out from their celebration event in the home stretch. So thank you so much for giving them this sort of last push and just reminder of what they're doing is making a difference. But we're still not done.
Great respect. Yeah, I mean, it's just fantastic. I really admire what you guys are doing. So many people just think about what they can get for themselves in life, right? I mean, there's this obsession with, you know, social media and getting what I want out of life. But I have, you know, a lot of admiration for you guys trying to do what you can to help other people. I mean, Rising Star is a great program. So I just hope I could be of some use to you guys, some words of wisdom and encouragement, you know.
Definitely. Thanks so much. And Dan, if you are available on the 30th, the celebration is virtual this year, just given the times that we're in. So we'll make sure that you get invited to that if you'd like to join and pop in and hear from our honorees this year. Because again, last year, when I watched the recording from last year, Dan, there were at least 5 to 7 honorees that name dropped you and said that you were one of their highlights from the entire experience. So we hope maybe you can join us on the 30th. I'll send you that information. But Kelly, I know you
Okay, great.
Some next steps for the honorees for an actual in-person thing next week. Do you want to chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, first, Dan, thank you so much. This was so incredible. As always, we sincerely appreciate your time. So thankful. For next week, so honorees that are on the phone next week, we do have something scheduled in person, which sounds super exciting and something we haven't done yet formally. So on Thursday, the 23rd at 5:30, we are going to meet at Island Park in Williamsville. We will send out some instructions on exactly where that is, but we're going to have a little station set up at Island Park, and that's where we're going to give you your celebration boxes that you can use to set up your camp for your virtual celebration. So would love to see you there. I'll be there. We'll, you know, take hopefully like a picture together. We'll give you your celebration boxes and your awards, which are really special. And then if anyone is in the area and wants to maybe walk somewhere after, I will be around. So I'd love to just meet with all of you and get to know you a little bit, and celebrate you, most importantly. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know. Send me an email, but I'll be around, and can't wait to meet you. All right. Well, with that, I think we've concluded our night. Dan, thank you again so much. This was so lovely.
Thank you. I'm glad I had the chance to talk to everybody, you know.
All right, and go Bills, right?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Take care.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
God bless you guys. Hey, take care.
Bye.